The Catholic Church is gearing up for a historic event that is expected to draw the largest number of pilgrims ever to the Catholic capital at the Vatican in Rome. Tomorrow, 2 popes will be made saints. It will be the first double canonization and the first canonization of a pope in the last 60 years. Rita Tinina now reports on the canonization of Pope John Paul II and Pope John the 23rd, and the memories of one man who met John Paul II, the Pope who visited Kenya 3 times.
At the Vatican, the Catholic capital is preparing for an unprecedented event that is expected to draw more than 2 million people, at least 19 heads of state and 24 prime ministers to St. Peter's Square come Sunday. It will be the first time in the history of the church that 2 popes will be declared saints at the same time. John Paul II, who served as Pope from 1978 to 2005, and John the 23rd, who was a pontiff for 5 years from 1958 to 1963. And if the giant statue in the hometown of John Paul II, born Karol Wojtyla in Poland, and that of Angelo Roncalli, who became Pope John the 23rd in Italy, are anything to go by to their followers, they are larger than life.
We need role models. These are people that are very human. By the way, to be a saint, the first thing is that you be as human as possible.
Canonization is an intensive and lengthy process that could take decades, even a century. First, one's life is evaluated to determine whether they exhibited heroic virtues and lived a righteous life.
And then you become blessed. We call that beatification. For beatification, a miracle is needed.
Beatification involves a series of ceremonies after which a person is believed to have the capacity to intercede on behalf of the living. 2 miracles are attributed to Pope John Paul II, who was beatified in 2011. The healing of a nun suffering from Parkinson's disease and that of a patient with a brain tumor from Costa Rica. Pope John the 23rd, nicknamed Good Pope John, is recorded to have performed 1 miracle, curing an ailing woman after his death in 1963. For him, Pope Francis waived the requirement of a second miracle traditionally needed for canonization, arguing that he played a defining role in convening the Second Vatican Council.
It was a revival of some sort. He said, let us open the windows of this church and let in some fresh air. Let us read the signs of the times. And his agenda was to make the church relevant.
Pope Benedict XVI set in motion the canonization process for his predecessor, John Paul II, immediately after his death, waiving the 5-year waiting period. John Paul II had himself waived the waiting period for Mother Teresa barely 2 years after she died. Some analysts see the double canonization as an effort by the Catholic Church to promote unity between its liberal and conservative wings. Come Sunday, much of the world's attention may be on Pope John Paul II, and for Dr. Reverend Lukwata, it will be a much more personal affair.
I shook the hands of John Paul II. He looked at me and said, "Are you from Ethiopia?" I don't know why he asked why I'm from Ethiopia.
That was in 1985. By then, he was a student of theology in Rome and was serving as an altar boy. It remains his once-in-a-lifetime encounter.
I was overwhelmed with joy. His charisma, his warmth, very lovable, very personable.
John Paul II was by far the most widely traveled pope in history, visiting some 129 countries and leaving the Vatican 1,500 times for official trips. One of those trips brought him here to the Catholic University in Nairobi.
John Paul was here, right where we are.
That was on the 18th of August, 1985. He opened the then Catholic Higher Institute of Eastern Africa, now the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. Pope John Paul II visited Kenya 3 times, his 3rd and last visit in September 1995. In the African quest for sainthood, Pope John Paul II is remembered for the canonization in the year 2000 of Saint Bakita from Sudan. And so come Sunday, Pope Francis will bring to a climax the process set in motion by his predecessors, a landmark event for the world's 1.2 billion Catholics. Rita Tinina, KTN.